Hello everyone, my name is Nicole Miyuki and this is Let's Make Art, and we are starting our fall box. Woo woo! Woo woo! So we're doing something different. We are going to be learning lettering with other types of pens. So you don't have to have brush pens, brushes. If this is your first time, this is the perfect project to start with. We are going to be creating this piece, and the quote is, "Be your own kind of beautiful." So you can make this however you want. The supplies that I'm going to be using, move that for a sec. So like I said, I'm going to be using Crayola Super Tips. So with Crayola Super Tips, they are markers that look like this. The ones that you have, if you have our subscription box, come in a pack of 20. These are essentially markers. Let me draw you some colors. They are actually technically for kids, I guess you can say. We're adults here. We're all kids at heart. Well, what are you saying?
I'm always a kid.
Okay, oh, that's what you meant. Keenan's always a kid. But I was gonna say that they don't have numbers on the pens. So I don't know, Keenan, if you wanna have fun and make up some color names, what we're gonna do, but I want you guys to see what colors I'm using.
Have you ever seen Prince and the Pauper?
No. Now everyone knows I don't watch a lot of movies. Has anyone seen Prince and the Pauper? Tell me what it's about. Why? What does it have to do with color?
Was just going to say that Prince and the Pauper green. I don't know. Just made me think of it. Sorry.
Okay, well, we're just going to... You want to put Prince and the Pauper, Keenan, you can put that. I'd say olive green, mauve, fish pink, yellow, peach. Essentially, you can make this however you want. I just know this is how we do it here at Let's Make Art, so I'm gonna do the color swatches for you. So I'm gonna use that. The paper that the final project is gonna be on is Bristol paper. So we're moving back. If you did any of our brush pen projects, this is what the final paper we used, are watercolors on watercolor paper. And then those are all the supplies that you need to complete this. Pretty simple. The steps, sorry. There are 6 different steps that we're gonna be going through. The first one is, this is a download sheet. If you also don't have our box, you can get this for free on our website at letsmakeart.com. Find this kit, scroll down, and you'll find the button that you can download this. So this is just to show you, we're gonna go over, there's 3 different ways that you can use these Crayola Super Tips to create your lettering. That's step 1. Step 2, let me put this over here so you can do the thing, is we're gonna go through thumbnail sketches. So I made this so that we can do that. And then this looks the same, but we're gonna do it again with colors. So I'll go through why we do that. Step 4 is we're gonna do the lettering. You see your quote. 5 is we're gonna draw some flowers and leaves. Step 6 is the shadows behind. That will help make your lettering pop. So those are the 6 steps. Okay, step 1. So as you can see on here, there are 3 different ones I'm gonna be talking about. I'm just gonna use some regular computer paper while I'm doing this. So the first style, so the first thing about this is these are just regular markers. So you can actually pause if you haven't watched our Foligraphy Beginner Lettering series, if you wanna go through that as well. That might be helpful to just get accustomed with foligraphy. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you that I'm going to do just regular cursive or your lettering if you want to do block font, because you can see here I also did block font on here. This is called monoline because there's no difference or variance in your stroke size. So what you might be used to is, this is a brush pen, these are the Tombow Dual brush pens, is using this type of brush pen, and you're used to thinking about pressure. So we're not going to be doing that. However, we're going to mimic this look. So that's why it's called foligraphy, because it's fake lettering apparently, basically. I am saying funny words today. But so I was gonna say is we are trying to mimic this. So in order to do that, if you're looking at this, this has no stroke variants, whereas these have the thin and the thick lines. So what I'm going to do is you can do this if you have this brush pen. This is actually a great way to practice, is maybe you do it on practice paper with your brush pen first, and then go and do your Crayola super tips so you can see what you're looking for. So I'm looking for my thick downstrokes, so when my hand is moving down or towards me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a line there, and then I'm going to add them here at these other points. And then, so I'm just doing it on the thick downstrokes. I'm just adding a line. And then I'm going to color them in. So you can either do it as you're going through. If you don't want to do it all in one step, you can do them as you're going through the whole letter. And I'm just going to do this quickly and color this in. So you'll notice that this, I can do it a little bit smoother. But there you go. So now my mono line, which was my first one that I did, looks like my brush lettering because I created that thick downstroke afterwards. So those are two different types. So you can 100%, if you like this monoline style, leave it like that. You can totally do that. Or you can do this and create foligraphy. The third one that I wanted to show you really quickly is that even though, so if you're looking at this, these pens also have a little taper tip at the top. However, they're not as flexible, so if I were to push this, it doesn't bend, and that's the difference between brush pens, is that they are a lot more flexible, so that's why you can create this difference. However, if you press really hard on these and then press lightly on your thin points, you can still create something very similar. It won't look exactly like this, but it'll look similar. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw the same word, but I'm gonna press harder, and then thin on the up, thick on the down. Thin on the up, thick on the down. So this might be a little bit more difficult in the beginning. So if you want, you can stick with this. Either style works. So I'm going thick on the down, thin on the up. So I know you can't tell, but I am pressing a lot harder here versus here. So thick, thin. So this is not really called anything. So I just called it thick and thin within, since you're drawing it while you're doing it. So you can tell that they slightly all have a little bit different look, but in the end, they all are your own lettering that you can use. So as you're doing this, your project, you can decide which one you want to do. I would suggest even pausing if you want and maybe practice a couple words to see which one you like. Okay, this one. Step 2. So when you're doing a quote, a bigger quote, you have the option to go for it if you want. If you've been with us here, you have probably heard me say the term thumbnail sketches. And so these are essentially smaller versions of your bigger version. And the reason why I like to do that is I like to get all my ideas and thoughts onto the page before I even start. So you can fill this up however you want. You can either do more sheets on this, but what I suggest doing is if you take your quote, if you want to do a different quote, you totally can. But what you can do is you can figure out layout. So let's pretend like I didn't have this and I knew my quote was be your own kind of beautiful. So I can decide maybe be your own kind. Maybe this is in cursive. So you'll notice I'm drawing these really quickly. I'm not being aware of any type of pressure. This is simply your time to sketch. So what you're thinking about is essentially layout. Be your own. Don't write the wrong word.
That would be really funny. You could even flip this sideways and do a horizontal version.
Yes, look at you. Let's see. What if it was all the words? Well, I ran out. There we go. Yeah, that would be fun. That's an option. So this is your time to not only think about layout, but you'll notice that on this one, I mixed in a little bit of block lettering and some script. So you can decide. And if you want, a good thing that I like to do also is think about maybe is there a word or is there a part of the quote that you want to emphasize or create a different feeling from? So let me flip this back over. With this quote, I thought it'd be nice to emphasize or create a different look for the second part of the quote, which is kind of beautiful. Maybe you just want to write beautiful in a different style or have it pop. All up to you. So once you fill that out, let me actually draw out what I did. So this was my thumbnail sketch. So when you have the one that you like, star it, and if you have other room, you can do it, but I'm gonna do it on here. So what I'm gonna do now is you did the layout part. So now what colors do you wanna use? How do you figure that out? Use this time to figure it out. So if you have all your colors out that you want, now you can experiment with your options. So do I want it all? So I'm taking this one because I like that one. As you can tell, I'm scribbling. So do I want it all like that, or do I want, I'm doing this wrong. This is supposed to be in cursive. Oh well. Maybe this is in yellow to have it pop. So as you can tell, this is your time to see a smaller version of what it is. Because if you were to do it big right off the bat, maybe you realize halfway through, ooh, maybe that wasn't what I wanted. And there are two different schools of thought. Some people think, well, you might as well go for it and jump right in, which I fully believe at some point. Sometimes you have to get over your fear of just starting. I created this so that it helps you guys kind of get over that and realize that you can take these steps to help you see that it doesn't have to be that scary. You can do this. So take your time to figure out what color selection you want to do for your final project. So feel free to pause and do that. Okay, that was step 3. Step 4. We are going to our final piece. So like I said, I'm using Bristol paper for my final one. You can, if you have watercolor paper, you totally can do that. Maybe if you have the Canson one that we use here, maybe flip it over so it's on the less rougher side, so that it's just, when things are a little bit bumpy, it's a little bit harder to letter on. Okay, so there are different ways that you can do this. You can either take your sketch, and maybe if you want to take it a step further, you take a blank piece of paper and you draw in pencil first on a scratch piece of paper if you want to practice your layout. That's an option, and then the light box, as you guys might know, is my friend a lot. So that's something you can do. For this one, what I want to show you is it doesn't need to be perfect. This quote lends itself to it. You can be your own kind of beautiful. And the cool thing when you're looking at this is you'll notice is that I filled negative space around this, which is what I'm going to show you how to do. But if you look at this, if you look really closely, it's actually not centered. Can you tell, Keenan?
Now that you say that.
Right? Thank you. That was perfect. I didn't even tell him to say that.
Yeah, it was not planned.
Now that I say that, he noticed it. But when you're looking at this, you wouldn't look at that and be like, oh, that's really off-centered, because you're allowing other things around it to play a part in your whole quote. So I say that because now that I know what color, I know what I want to do, pretend like this didn't exist yet, I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, 3 of them in block. This is technically supposed to be cursive, and then these 2 in cursive. So what I'm going to do is, if I'm looking at this, what helps is, if you want, you can also draw yourself some guidelines if you'd like. I'm going to go for it just to show you guys, but spatially I'm thinking about 5, something around there. Again, it's okay if it's not centered exactly. So what I want to show you when I'm doing this is, let's see, I'm going to show you guys both of the ways that you can use this pen as we learned in the beginning. So the first one that I'm going to do is I'm just going to not think about pressure. Okay, so for that one, I did it just with the monoline. I'm going to do 2 letters so you can just see the difference. Be your, okay, so this is my block lettering, not thinking about pressure at all. So what I'm going to do is afterwards, I'm going to go back in and add a line to thicken it. So this one I'm doing it at the same time, just making it thicker. If you want, like I said, we have the beginner lettering series that I go over this a little bit more. But you can decide if you want to add a shape like that and then color it in, or if you want to just draw an overlap over your original line. But essentially, again, I'm making my downstrokes just a little bit thicker. So be your own. Okay, so own, I'm going to show how even though this is my block lettering, I'm going to think about thin and thin with, what did I call it? Thick and thin within, not thin and thin within. Thick and thin within. So this, I'm going to be mindful of pressure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go thick on the down, thin on the up. Thick on the down, thin on the up. So you can tell it has a little bit of a different look. In addition, because I went over this a few times, it's a little bit darker. At the end, actually, I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to do a whole another layer on top just to make my lettering darker. So don't be too worried about that right now. If you want and you do this and you decide, I want to make them all the same, go ahead and just make this a little bit thicker if you'd like. And you can do the same thing, so it has a similar look. Maybe I'll make that a little bit thicker. Ends are an interesting one. If you guys notice, I realize I should say this just in case anyone's wondering. I like to do my ends when I do them as a block style. I go up. Do you know what you do, Keenan? Most people probably go down, down, down.
I think I go up, down.
Like what I did? Up, down, down?
Up. Down,
like
down.
that.
Yes, that one.
So the thing when we're looking at this is if I were to do it like I showed you how some of you might at home might do this, is I'm going down, down, down. So essentially these would all be thick. And that's just bubble lettering. So that's why I wanted to create just a little bit of difference where this is a little bit thicker and then maybe this one's medium, or you do the opposite. So even though there is a rule as far as being mindful of when your hand's going, if you want to switch it up, you do you. You can make it your own.
How have you been deciding on what side of the line to draw the thicker part?
It is up to you. There are some ways that you can think about it. You can decide if you want to do it all the same within the letter. So if you want to do it on the right side of each one or the inside. I'm going to do it. I'll talk about it more when I do this one. Thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to draw and use my cursive script type of style. And I'm going to do kind of. So I'm not thinking about pressure in this one. And again, if you want to do this in pencil first, please be my guest and do that. Own kind of beautiful. Oh, I skipped a little bit over there. So, with Keenan's question, his question was, how do I decide which part of the stroke to draw my thick line? Trying to think how to say this. One thing that I do is I do it once, and then I usually, for me, it's kind of become second nature, but I don't think specifically as I need to do it on one side every single time. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the letter itself. So I noticed that if I did it on the outside, it would make this K a little bit bigger. So I want to make my K a little bit smaller just because it's pretty big in comparison, if you guys can see. So I'm going to decide to do it on the inside of this and just thicken up that line. That's a very thick stroke. That's all good. On K's also, I like to make it thick and then come to a thin line. So the whole thing isn't thick. It just creates a kind of a curve from there. So on this one, it really also doesn't matter. If I were to do it on the outside here, let's switch it up. I'll do it on the outside here just so you guys can see. It doesn't matter. With certain type of strokes though, if you'll look, so on this N, if I were to do it on here, let's see. Okay, so on this one, I'm gonna do it on the outside or the left. On this one, I'm gonna do it on the inside. So it's super, super minor, but you'll notice that my eye, and this is because I've been trained to see this, and I want you guys to also see this too, is that I see this negative space right here, so it's a little bit deeper here. It really doesn't matter, and this is why both of them work. It just creates a very slightly different look. So this one, because you did it on the inside, it brought this shape a little bit more, so it looks like you started the second stroke a little bit higher. So on ends, and because of that, I like the way this one looks, and that's just personal preference. So I tend to do it on the outside. So, or sometimes do it on this side. So don't worry too much about, am I doing it right, which is the right one? Just make the line a little bit thicker. The other thing that you can be mindful of is the space in between. So if I were to draw this and draw my line right here, it would make this space in here even smaller. So these loops are a fairly good size, so I have enough space to afford to make that thicker on that side. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, okay. So in essence, you can do either way, but those are little things that you can look at. So this stroke is really big, so by me doing it on the inside, I'm able to make it a little bit smaller, that space in between. And I just feel like doing this, but I'm gonna add a loop to this guy. It needed some flair. So just added a loop like that. So you can always do that as well. So I'm just gonna make this a little bit thicker. And when I'm doing this, you guys will see that, I don't know if you can see it from the top, Keenan, or the side, but you can see that they're kind of two different shades. So you can tell that I added my thick downstroke to it. Don't worry, we will go over it at the very end. And also that adds some personality to it. So don't worry if you don't like it.
Yeah, it kind of makes it look like it's twisted.
Oh, I like
cool.
that. Okay, so that was step 4, adding your quote. We are now going to move on and do our flowers. Oh, maybe I don't have it. Okay, well, I thought there was another sheet, maybe not. Okay, well, I'm gonna teach you guys a few different flowers. I don't know what flower they are, but they're flowers. This is my way, so I'm not very good at drawing flowers. However, I like to draw simple ones, and I want to show you guys that they're actually shapes. So this one that I'm going to show you guys first is a U, but then you add, it's kind of like half a peanut.
Looks like a tooth.
It totally does. Okay, if you want to draw a tooth shape, you can decide how, if you want this to be less flat, so maybe it's more like that. That's actually probably more realistic. So a shape that's like that, and then you're going to add a curve to the side and a curve to the other side. So like their wings. And then...
It's like a simple tulip.
Oh, it's a tulip.
Yeah.
I thought tulips were more pointy.
That's if they're closed. If they're open, they have different bodies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. It's a tulip.
Yeah.
Keenan, the one flower Keenan knows how to do.
Tulips. I can paint a mean tulip.
And then if you notice on some flowers, well, the way that they're built is that they grow and then the green is a little bit on the outside. So you can draw yourself leaves if you want on the outside. I just do a little trick and I just draw little strokes of grass on the outside and then there's your stem. This feels like a really dark color. Whoa.
Healthy green.
Do you see this? Sorry, I'm gonna call this out. This is the same color.
Interesting.
Wow. So this is computer paper and this is Bristol paper, but or is that me? Or am I tripping out?
You're right.
That looks a lot darker. And look at that pink. Actually, that's the wrong pink. Never mind. This is the peach. So those are different. It's like, that's way too different. This is just to show you guys that different color paper will create a different color. That was just me being
You got excited.
a dork.
Colors are fun. That's fine.
Okay, so that's one simple flower. The other one is like a daisy. Maybe. Would you say that's a daisy? I don't know.
Yes.
All you're doing, draw a circle or center. Pick any color, any of the pinks maybe, and you are drawing a curve and a curve. You can draw them fast, you can draw them fat, you can draw them slow. That was a very oblong one. Or you can be more deliberate and draw them like that. So they're more perfectly shaped. I didn't close those. So that's that one. I should have been just doing this while I'm talking. My bad, people. We can do a fast one. Okay. Well, I decided to use my peach color, and also if you guys didn't realize that the color is also on top, because sometimes these look very similar, so it's hard to kind of tell. Just a little tip. So the other one, in addition to these two, reminds me of a lotus flower. The lotuses are in the pond, so maybe I just am drawing a lotus with a stem.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
So you're taking the same almond type shape, the curves, but you're drawing them, maybe you draw two like that, and then you're gonna draw them coming out from the side, but not making a complete curve and just coming off the side like that. You can either make them symmetrical or you can make them asymmetrical. So if you make them asymmetrical, they might look like that, and then you can have the little guys popping up from there. So I think those are the three different ones. The other ones that are in addition to those different styles, you can also make them a lot smaller. So maybe you do the same thing, but you do them smaller like that. Now, I know why I didn't do this first. There are two different ways you can do this. You can either think about this as I'm gonna draw all my flowers first. I wanna take up all my space, and then I'm gonna add in the leaves to fill in the space. Or you can do the opposite and you can draw your leaves first and then add your flowers after. Whatever you'd like to do, you can do. Let's go fast while I draw some flowers. I'm gonna do this first. I'm gonna draw some flowers and then I'll show you guys some leaves. Okay, so as you guys saw, I know I was moving fast, but I kind of jumped around. So that's the way my brain works. If your brain works better where you want to do this whole side and then you move here and then you move here, that will totally work. Also, it's okay if you want to fill in more flowers at the end. So that feels pretty good for me for now. So now I'm gonna add in my leaves. So you can decide, you'll notice some of them are just stems. Some of them are full leaves, some of them are just simply leaves. So you can see what space you're working with. This, I kind of see a curve right here. So there are a few different types of leaves that you can do. You can do teardrop type of shaped ones. You can do, let's see, let's bring this up here. You can do more almond shaped ones. Maybe that goes like that. But allow yourself to just fill in the spaces. So think of it less as I'm drawing a specific leaf and it needs to look exactly like this, and instead see this is the space I'm working with. What can I do? Let's see, I'm gonna draw, maybe it's one big leaf, and then right here, and then this curves around like that. And maybe you wanna draw another little one coming off from there. That's a yellow. Oh, adorable. I can do yellow. Adorable. Draw a little guy right there, or make some sort of different flower. So you're kind of mixing it up. All of them also, maybe that is a floating lotus flower. That one can be. Maybe this one is a stem right there. When you're also doing this, if you want leaves that come off your stem, you can either do them where they come directly off of the stem, or maybe you draw a line and then draw it like that. So this is kind of like maybe little eucalyptus. Maybe there's two like that. It's interesting when you start to do it, you'll realize that feels a little bit heavy. So maybe over here I'm going to draw more open leaves because I kind of got a lot right there. So then I see this negative space, I'm going to draw a line, and I'm going to draw, let's mix up the colors. I like to just scribble too. Flower. On these ones also I forgot, or I said it here, but I'm going to draw my little blades of grass so that they connect like that. You don't have to do that if you don't like that. Okay, we are going to jam.
Jam.
Go. Pause for a second. You'll notice really slightly I smudged it. If you tend to be like me and maybe your your hands get a little clammy, buffer. That's all I wanted to say. What?
Clams.
My clams get clammy?
Clams get handy.
Okay, done. Bye. Okay, so once you filled in your spaces, you have some options. You can go in and maybe you want to color in your flowers, and I realized I didn't add the centers of my guys. So you can add different colors. You can also add dots if you want to add some other personality to it. The one thing I did also say is on some leaves, I like to leave them blank. On other ones that are maybe a little bit bigger, I like to add the vein to them. So maybe these guys. Oh, I did it naturally on that one. So you can add that in. The other suggestion I have you think about is take a step back and look at this and see if there's any holes that you see that maybe can use filling. I see this spot right here, and then
a little off camera.
That spot right there.
Spot. There you go.
Do you see any other ones, Keenan?
Right below the eye, in beautiful.
Let's do a little, let's see. A little, what bean did you call it?
Oh, it's a kidney bean.
the kidney bean. There, fill up some of that space. And last thing I wanted to show with this is, if you notice when you're looking at this one that I did, is I went off the edge on some of these. So it's personal preference. If you want to have a white border around it, like this one. So this one has a little bit of white border. These kind of touch the edges, but this one looks like it's coming off of the page, whereas this one is very central on it. Up to you which one you want to do. I just want to show that you have options. Okay, the last thing is shadows. So if you'll notice when you're looking at this, I use the same colors, but this pops a lot more than this one. The reason why is there's two things. The first one is I'm going to add a shadow. So what I suggest you do is take the lighter of your colors. So I'm going to show using my peach color, and I'm just going to draw a shadows. Draw a shadow. Shadows. Grammar.
Shadow's a shadow.
So when you're doing this, you pick a light source and you think the light is coming from this side, it hits my letters, it's casting a shadow on my left side of my letters. So I'm just overlapping a little bit and adding a shadow. So I decided to do these in peach, and then I wanted this to pop a little bit more. So I'm going to add and do yellow. So you can dictate how thick your shadows are. They can be a lot thicker if you'd like than I have here. You can also do a light gray. If you have a light gray, that might be really too.
Ooh, that'd be pretty.
You have options. Okay, so that's one of the steps to make it pop. The other one is take the same color, so I was using that mauve pink type of color, and I'm going to overlap the entire letter and essentially color it back in. So it helps to make not only the color a little bit more even and solid, but it just makes the color pop more. And so it's okay if you're going over lines and that was once a thin line. It will still work. What?
Yeah,
okay. The other part that I wanted to note is, so this is just the monoline, so it's one line. It's okay if I go back over it, maybe I make it a little bit thicker. Because the other thing that you can do is you can decide when you're looking at this is, do you want your letters to be a lot thicker and bolder, or do you like the contrast of how thick this is and how thin this is? If you do, leave it. If you want to make this thicker, color over it and then just overlap over it. So it just made it a little bit thicker. Again, personal preference. This is your own art. So go over that, and then the same thing for kind of beautiful. I'm going to do that. The interesting thing when I'm looking at this is my K, the thick of my K is a lot thicker than all my other thicks. It actually doesn't bother me if you're someone that you want to make them all the same. What you can do is do the same thing and overlap and color in, and then where you see your thick downstrokes, if you want to make all of them a little bit thicker, just make it a little bit thicker. No need to worry about it. Make it a little bit thicker. Okay, we can fast forward through the rest of this and then I'll see you at the end. Okay, there we go. So can you guys see how that pops a lot more? You can do, you can maybe, if you want to add some more depth to your flowers, you totally can. You can play with this for days. I'm excited to see how you make your own. So that's everything. Yeah, make sure to close your caps. I tend to not do that sometimes, so close your caps. I am so excited. This is a new quarter we're starting. If this is your first time with us, we have a quarterly lettering box where we do a different project every week. So this box, we are focusing on different types of pens. You have the Crayola Super Tips. We're gonna do a little bit of gel pens and some paint pens. There's gonna be a lot of different metallic colors that we're gonna learn together. So we have a Facebook group called Let's Make Art Lettering, and we have a Instagram that's called Let's Go Make Art. So join both of those, tag us in them, follow along. We love to see what you create, and I'm excited to be doing something new with you guys. Okay, see you next week. Bye.